What's good, family? You already know who it is. So, you know, lately I've been really overwhelmed because I've been in a phase of detachment. You know, for the longest time in my life, I've been attached to a lot of things, mostly people. You know, who who seem to be in my life for good reasons, but in a lot of ways, things didn't play out or turn out how I wished they would have turned out, And the more I look back into my past and how I think other people weren't there for me, I realized, like, bro, what if I wasn't there for me? What if the reason why they weren't there for me in the ways that I desired is because I wasn't truly there for me? I was more there for them, So how can I desire someone to be there for me when I'm not even there for me, Like, at least that's the analogy that I've had to come to accepting about my life. Is that in order to receive out of anybody what you desire, you have to be giving that energy to yourself to begin with, And for a very long time, I was kind of stuck in this mindset of who did me wrong and just putting the blame externally instead of going deep within and seeking where did I go wrong, and like just what part did I play in me coming to realize that people who were in my life didn't truly have my best interest, no, something that led me away from everyone and everything I know in 2020, 2020, 2024? No, 2024, yeah. 2024, last year around March, I walked out the door from my father right after I had some trips on mushrooms that led me to diving deep within a lot of pain that I just covered up with sand, like that had to do with how a woman that he remarried, that he brought onto this journey with us to America, and this lady never really catered to me as a son, from the jump. It always seemed more like, based on what I can get out of him, that's what I'm gonna give them, But I'm gonna speak for me solely as my father's son. I'm not gonna speak for my siblings because I don't know what they experienced. But I know for me, that lady's energy, it just never resonated with me. But when we first moved out here to America, I just learned to take it for what it is. I never paid it too much mind. And over the years, my father got a house. I lived with my brother, hustling, juggling. Now you could probably say struggling to keep up with my responsibilities and take care of myself, And me and my father, we started not to see eye to eye because of my habit of smoking marijuana. He never liked it. He never accepted it. And he always said that I would never succeed in life as long as I smoke. And I rebuked those sayings a million times. And I have proven to myself that smoking is not the reason why I won't succeed, but not being a man of truth will be the main reason why I will not succeed on the journey of life that I have chosen, For me, it's become more about how true I can be. And at the time when I ended up walking away from my father or whatever, I wasn't fully embodying my truth, you know. I snuck a lot to steal from my father things that belonged to him to benefit myself. And doing that, I owed the universe a lot. I I I started to amount a lot of karmic depths onto the universe. But when I took what I was taking, my intentions weren't to steal, but instead to use that to build myself up to be able to pour back into what I took from. But time is not priceless. Time is valuable, but the time that I needed to accomplish what I perceived within my mind, which I knew I could make true, wasn't given to me. And it pushed me to saying, you know what, I don't want to depend on my family for whatever it is that they have. I've always came back around to depend on my father or depend on my aunt or someone to help me and take care of me, so on and so forth. And I realized, you know, I'm at a point of life where I want to take a risk on myself. I want to take a leap of faith. I want to go somewhere away from everyone and everything I know and see how I can survive on my own. But even when making that decision, I still wasn't fully trusting myself in a sense. And in another sense, I still felt like I needed someone to be there in my life. So I reconnected with a girl who I dated for over 3 years, who I was starting to fall apart with because we started not to align energetically. So we started to not really spend much time together or around each other because I was seeking to build myself, and her energy just wasn't aligning with who I was becoming. So I kept my distance a lot, but we still talked here and there. You know, like how I felt about her was so genuine that I just, even if I was seeking to focus on myself, I just couldn't help but to, and the more I sought to focus on myself, the more the emotions that were buried inside my guts about, you know, how I truly felt about us would come up. And so I would express it, but, you know, it was more like my expressions didn't really matter as much because to me it seemed like she had her own agenda, which was to just drain me as a man and to keep me in a lower state where I'm not fully activating the best version of myself. But at the time, I wasn't really looking at it like that. I was more just struggling within myself and just trusting this girl blindly. Don't get me wrong. The things that I wanted in the time, based on the way I was living in lack, she provided for me in a lot of ways. Like when I needed it to live Atlanta, Georgia, to move to another place, which was Hawaii, she helped me with the flight. She helped me with the hotel where I stayed before I left Atlanta, Georgia. And when I made it to Hawaii, she helped me with the little things like food to eat, mainly, and a place to stay for a day or two. And eventually I connected with a friend of mine who I asked to give me a hand at my arrival in Hawaii. So I stayed with that friend of a friend for about maybe a month. But as I got out there, you know, like before I even left here, I took a shroom trip with this girl, and we interchanged minds. Like it's almost like she was living in my mind and I was living in her mind. But what I realized at the time is that the things that I saw outside of her, I could get with her, right? Because my idea was, as a man, I don't feel fulfilled just being with one woman, and I trust that I don't want to live a life of cheating or whatever they call it, and I would rather just be real to myself about the desires that I have when it comes to other women. So, but that day when we took that shroom trip, it's almost like my mind dove in so deep that it realized that all the other women I'm seeking to have an experience with, I can have that same experience with just this one woman that I'm with, and it's all about the energy that I pour into her. And you know, that led me to saying a lot of things that made her feel like I didn't want anyone outside of her, and that I was ready to put all my eggs into one basket and to just focus solely on her. Moving forward to me being in Hawaii, I went first. She didn't come with me because she didn't trust to leave in an unknown. And that was a sign for me, but I didn't really look into it too deep because I always expressed this to her. I always said, you know, the fact that you didn't trust to make that move with me shows that you were not in alignment with me, because you seek to be secure. You wanted that move from Atlanta to Georgia to feel the most secure. You didn't want to be in a situation where you didn't know where you were gonna sleep, how you were gonna eat, and how you were gonna survive. Basically, you didn't want to leave in survival mode. But I was willing to take that risk and to just say, you know what, I trust God and I trust myself, and I want to attract something new. You know, and me just making her part of that whole move, it destabilized the outcome of what I could have experienced. But I don't like to talk about could have, should have, would have. But she came, eventually she came after I convinced her not to come, because I realized that I had to get my ish together while I was out there, because I couldn't even take care of her or like be there for her in the ways that I always been. And it didn't feel right to me. You know, I was always the kind to give, to help, to cater to my significant other. And I did it for a very long time, and I feel like God was putting her through a test to see how much she would cater to me as to what I did for her when I first encountered her. And, you know, to me, it always just seemed like she was doing the things she was doing out of one sole desire, which is to remain sexually attached to me. You know, I feel like our sexual relationship was one of her most wanted desires out of me. Yet it was a lot of other aspects of me that she admired also, maybe, that she always spoke about. And, you know, but for the most part, what kept her attached to me was our sex, you know. And after she made the move out there, you know, dove right back into the sex, you know, and your mind starts to wander around. And one day, she seemed to have a lot on her heart, and we walked to a park to talk. We talked about a lot, and that's when I expressed to her updates on how I felt in the moment. And when I expressed those things, she didn't really receive them as she was. I was telling her, like, I love you. I've known nothing but you for the longest. I want us to build together. I don't want us to be overly focused on just being in a relationship and having sex with each other. I want to be able to open up to the world and attract more of what it is that we're seeking out of life. What you're seeking is financial stability. You're seeking stability, period. And all I was trying to accomplish through letting her know that right now things are seeming very cloudy, because I see that this focus that I'm putting solely into you is keeping me away from reaching certain spaces in life. And I simply expressed to her that, once again, as a man, unless I can feel fulfilled in every aspect by how a woman caters to me, I would always have desires for other women. And you know, when I expressed that, she said, I would rather not be in your life if that's what you want. And I'm like, okay. You'd rather be alone if my happiness requires me not to want you to be the only person in my life. And that's just what it was for her. She's like, nah, it's either you mine or there's nothing. It's either you're for me or there's nothing. But whole time, she kept her own people in the back, you know, just waiting for things to go wrong so she could run back to someone else. During that time, I wasn't really I didn't really care about who she might have been, whatever. You know, things happen. Eventually, we had another conversation another day, and it led to her talking about her father and how her father abandoned her. And, you know, I was expressing to her that you saying you want to walk away from people just because they can't just be there for just you is not a way to live. Like, you talking about abandonment. You know, look at me. What about me? What do you think led me to being in Hawaii with no family, with no friends, with nothing but just you? You know, you and I are we're experiencing the same thing, but you're refusing to see my perspective. You want me to see how you feel. You want me to feel how you feel, but you're not putting yourself in my shoes to experience my side of the pain, of the hurt, whatsoever. So her not seeking to actually understand led her to taking her pride and walking out. She walked out the door, she left. A few days later, she came back, calling her someone to check up on me. I got rid of the phone that connected us. You know, I started to let go of the things that attached us to each other, and she started to feel the detachments, and she started to see if I was doing okay, whatever. She came back around. I'm like, yeah, I'm good, man. You know, you could go about your way. You could go about whatever it is that makes you happy, because she was very prideful. Even if I was her main source of happiness, it was easier to make it seem like I wasn't, so she could go and pride herself elsewhere about whatever it is she feels that makes her happy. You know, like this overstimulated form of feeling joyful, just not to have to feel what's actually happening in your life. You know, and I couldn't stand that anymore. And I was already in a place where I'm like, bro, I don't want to have to depend on nobody for nothing. So however this goes, I'm ready to just roll on a boat and just learn something new about myself. So I was really at a point where I'm like, bruh, I ain't got no shelter. I don't know where to go. Because the place where I was staying, I had to leave because she came. And her coming required us to pay a weekly rate that I couldn't afford because I wasn't working. But before she came, they were willing to let me take the time to figure myself out. Mind you, I lived in a house with a married couple. but it felt to me like the woman in that married couple wanted me so bad. A few times I could say I lusted at her, not really lusted, but I just looked at her in a very attractive. She was very attractive. You know, she would put on some very distinctive clothing some days and just show different parts of herself. And I mean, why shouldn't a man or a woman be able to do that? You know, but I was able to control my lust. I never approached her in any funny. I never did anything out of the ordinary. Like, I never stepped to a man's wife and trying to ruin their relationship. So, because it was done to me in the past, you know, and I refuse to bear that karma. I refuse to bear that karma of being the one to ruin a man's relationship just because I see that his woman was into me. So I didn't fall for that. But eventually when I left their crib, I went back to a place where I first stayed, which was called a hostel. Hostel is more like in a room you have these they bunk beds, yeah, bunk beds, right? The rooms with bunk beds, and you could have 6 to 8 people in one room, you know, and all you get is one bed. You get a bed, you all share the same bathroom, you all share the same small living room or whatnot, and it's mainly just for you to lay your head and take a shower as shelter. So I went back there and I couldn't even pay for a stay. So I told the manager, I'm like, I don't really have a place to go. Tomorrow I got a job. So what happened is the time that as I got there during that day, I just sat. And you know, it's funny, I realized how powerful God is. When you move, when you actually make a move in the darkest of rooms, in the darkest of space, like when things are looking the darkest, like you don't know where to go, and you just decide, okay, let me make this move and trust that some way, somehow, something's gotta happen, because I'm not seeking to just sit in despair and to give up on myself. So as I left their house that day, not knowing where to go, and I went there and I sat, as I connected with people, someone came around and asked me, was I looking for a job or something to do? And it was a car washing detail place, and they referred me to the place. So the next day I went, but that night I slept outside, you know, like in the complex of the building, but they had like a little get together area where like people would watch TV. I slept downstairs right there. I just tucked myself in right there and just slept. Now, I had a lot of nights like that where I didn't have a place to sleep, where I just slept in that veranda downstairs until the next day. And the next day came. I made it to the job on time. So I worked as a car washer for a guy who is very connected to the industry. And, you know, when I first got there, like, I would say that I expected this man to see my true value and worth, because he knew who I was before I even showed up to his door. And after I showed up to his door and who he saw that I was, he knew that I was more than what I presented myself as to need in the moment. But I also realized at the time that not that I was overly confident, but I was trying to count on people who I couldn't really count on, because they had no idea who I was and just what it took me to get to that point of life where they met me to need a service from them. Nevertheless, this man eventually took me in and let me work and live at his office, like the car wash office. He allowed me to live there because I didn't have a place to stay. So, you know, in every way, God always found a way to make things work for me. But in a lot of ways also, this guy was trying to take advantage of me. But God had his eyes over me, and God was always watching. So it didn't last too long. He had employees who were starting to have a lot of animosity towards me.
because they feel like I was being favored by God and even by their own employer. The dude, he truly valued me. Like no one else was, no one else did he allow to live in that office the way. But he had one guy who he was helping who also lived in a warehouse. But I was one of those people who he helped in ways that somebody else probably felt like they could have gotten out of him, but they didn't get. So they had a lot of animosity towards me. And I decided not to be part of that situation anymore. So that led me to reaching back out to my ex. Mind you, before that time, me and my ex linked up again at the warehouse and we slept with each other. Before the time where I decided to leave the job, but like me and her weren't really having the best of communication and relationship. It was more just based on finding ways to apologize for the most recent things and just diving right back into having sex. Like there was nothing substantial about our relationship anymore. The things I was building, she wasn't invested into, and it's like, how can I spend my energy with you when what I'm building, you're not investing any of your energy into, and it's mainly my energy that has to go into it. So it's like, why are we doing this? So after I left that job, it led me to going back to the hostel again. And this time, I lived at that hostel for a very long time without even having to pay a dime. I had to pay sometimes, and after I paid those times, it's like the manager just knew that I needed the assistance, and he supported me for a very long time. Very long time that I became complacent. I became so complacent that I would not get out of the bed. And the only thing I would do was just smoke weed and sleep. Smoke weed, sleep. Smoke weed, sleep. Bro, like that was becoming a routine. And God was like, nah, I can't have this child living like this. Like now that I think about it, I realize that's what it is. God was like, I can't have this child living like this. It's not fulfilling any purpose. Like God just knew the situation I was in was very devastating, very, very devastating. And as I went back to that place, me and my ex, we started to search for apartments, like places to stay and to move in together, because she stayed at a place where she didn't really like or whatever. And I never sought to live in one of those places either, because it's kind of like a homeless shelters. Not all homeless shelters are bad. I trust that the one she was in was pretty good, but it just never worked out for me to find a homeless shelter. It's like every time I stepped up to a homeless shelter, people looked at me like I wasn't homeless and I didn't belong there. And I just knew the energy wasn't right. So I never pushed myself too much to even get into a homeless shelter. I just fought. I fought. I fought for myself on the streets. Like I preferred being outside than living in a homeless shelter, because the energies in the homeless shelters just didn't resonate with me. They did not resonate. So as I moved back into the hostel, as I was staying there, we started working together to get a place. And we found a place and we're supposed to move in, but the lady started acting weird. So I convinced her to give me the money that she wanted to use to pay for that monthly stay at the new apartment that we're about to get. And he was living there like a apartment. It's still like a shared space in our house, like shared living. And so I convinced her to send me that money, because it's a lot of things that my spirit guides started to feed into my mind. That rising when the lady denied, she at the last minute she started talking about signing papers after we paid money. Like if there was anything to be signed, we would sign it before paying the money for the place. But whatever, the scheme happened in a way where like it led to me telling her like, okay, whatever this money is that you was about to spend on this place,
give it to me so I can use to take care of me, because obviously you got you, right? Or yeah, obviously you got you. Like, we had some very toxic conversations the night before that day too, and it was more like I was like ready to just give up on all of it, and she's more like, yeah, I've been waiting on you to just give up. And I'm like, what? Nevertheless, so the next day, as I come in, I convinced her to give me the money that was meant for that rent. But what made me do that is when my spirit guide started to tell me, like, this woman just wants to drain you of your sexual energy. Like, the only reason why she wants to get this place to live with you and be there with you is so that she could be fulfilled sexually whenever she desires. And my spirit guides and my ancestors, before that time, were already leading me away from her, because it seemed like she wasn't connecting with me genuinely anymore through the spirit. Because when you're having sex, there's a lot of communication being had that we don't hear or see, because it's being had within the spirit realm amongst family members and just people who have lived before us that still live in us. And when I started to listen to the voices of my spirits telling me, nah, this whole thing is a setup. This girl wants to stay in this place with you so she could drain you of your sexual energy. So I decided to play the game and get her to give me that money that she was about to pay for that rent. Like, my spirit guides literally led me to doing that, and to be honest, a part of me still wants to feel like that wasn't right, but bruh, my guts and my instincts were not lying to me at the time, bro. Everything was just aligning. Everything was aligning. Everything was aligning. And like, after she gave me that money that day, she said some things. She said some things that led us apart from each other. We stopped talking. I used some of that money to invest into my brand or whatever and got some pieces. And as I was out there one day in Hawaii just enjoying myself on mushrooms, some girls, they came up to me, we interacted, they bought 2 sets from me, and I spent time with them. I started developing feelings for this girl, and then she tried to play me because I tried to build with her. I started a whole new brand and tried to put it in her hand, and just trying to create a revenue for her so that she doesn't feel like what I want out of being with her was just to use her. But she didn't see it as such. She fumbled everything I was trying to do with her at the time. And she just stopped responding to me for a while. Eventually, she reached back out and she repaid what she owed me for what I invested. And she just remains a connaissance of mine now. She just remains someone that I know. But down the road after that happened, I really started to pay attention to my surroundings and the people that I allowed into my space. So I messed with people very less, and for a while I had stopped smoking. And there were people in my what we call it, in my hostel room. There's this girl and this gay guy that were always coming in and out, making it seem like the life they were living was so fulfilling. And this girl started saying to me like I'm boring because I told her like I was on shrooms one day and I was driving. And she like, if I'm on shrooms, I don't want to be driving. And I'm like, shit, when I'm on Shroom, the things that I seek to do is to go within, not to be outside having fun and looking like an idiot, you know, and we just we didn't align, you know. She tried to give me to walk with her, to go somewhere. As we were going, we're talking, the next thing you know, the energy just wasn't resonating, bro. It just wasn't resonating. But after that interaction happened, I sat with myself for a very long time. The night came that day and somebody approached me with smoking, and I was like, you know what? I haven't done it in a while, fuck it, why not? Let me smoke. But I got high that day, and oh my God, it's almost like all my hidden talents and gifts just woke the fuck up. You know, like everything felt more vivid. Like I started playing my music and I was singing and dancing down the strip of Waikiki. And I ran into a few people, made a few connections, but those connections didn't last. They ended up showing their true colors, you know. And it seemed like the drug I was on that night led me to attracting these people who didn't fully have my best interest. But it wasn't long before I separated myself from that, because I was really living in a space where like, nah, I'm not allowing nobody to come into my life who don't have my best interest. Like I could feel the energy. No, I don't want to be part of this. I don't want to be part of this. So I kept my distance and I just kept trying to figure things out on my own. Eventually, the manager at the hostel where I stayed at, he got tired of me living there for free. He like, man, you gotta go. They said and it's not even him that was kicking me out. It was higher authority that told him to kick me out. So when I got kicked out, like things really started to look very shady. But God made it work. I ended up picking up a job at Cheesecake Factory, and I started going to work and coming back to the hostel and sneaking my way into sleeping downstairs in the veranda. And I did that for a few days, and one day I was so hurt that I couldn't move my body because of how much I was inflicting pain onto it by being a dishwasher at Cheesecake Factory. And the way that shit runs is it's not the most convenient thing to do, but it left my body really injured, and I reported that to the job. Eventually it led me to going through like an injury case for work compensation, so on and so forth. And throughout that time, while my case was ongoing, I was hanging around with this guy. One night, I didn't even spend time with this dude a lot, but when I first met him, we connected. He was cool. Always saw him around the area. I always told him to keep his distance from certain people, because everybody's out to get everybody's out to get one another right now. Just keep your distance. And I was just telling him good things. So eventually one day he wanted to spend time around someone that was genuine. So we met up, we spent time, we did some mushrooms, smoking weed, having a good time, like really having some very deep conversations and enlightening conversations about the things we want to do moving forward. And that night, as we walked down the strip of Waikiki, this woman and her daughter across the street, they flagged us, like, and out of courtesy, you know, and curiousness, I decided to cross the street with my friend, and they asked us, did we have a cigarette? And I'm like, nah, we don't smoke cigs, but we smoke za, smoke bud, marijuana. So she like, oh, please, can I get a hit? Whatever. I'm like, God damn, we had other plans. Like, we had other plans for this. But you know what? I'm gonna show you some love. Next thing you know, I spark up the blunt. spark up the blunt, and we just chilling there, just smoking. And as I passed her the J, she was smoking the J, and her daughter was right around, like sitting on the curb. So I walked up to the daughter and I told her, I asked her if she was on IG, or I told her to follow my page. And then her mother quickly like stepped in, was like, no, I'm gonna corrupt my daughter. I was like, oh, my bad. But before I even try to get the daughter to follow my page, I was hitting on the mom already. And when I tried to get the daughter to follow my page, it was almost like she got jealous, but she has a man too. But after that happened, when she tried to pull me away from her daughter, I was like, okay, my bad. So I asked my friend, is speaker on? And he was like, yeah, bro, play some jam. So I played one of my songs. It's Toothpick. Go by, it's my time now. It's my time now. It's my time now to show my ass off. You know, when that song came on, it turned the whole energy around. Because when that song came on, then her sons came out. Two boys, they came out. They weren't even part of the host. We didn't see them nowhere before, but they came out of nowhere. They're like, oh, we gotta go. We gotta get, like basically telling them they gotta get away from us, right? And I'm like, okay, y'all go about your business, right? Go about your business. Give me my J. Like, the lady should start, like, she's trying to phase my J. I'm like, bro, just pass me my J back. And I got my J back. And these niggas that come around, they start wolfing. Like, they want to fight. Like, they want to get into something. And I'm smoking the rest of the J. I'm listening to my music. I'm like, listen, the nigga want to touch me. Look, do you. My music is playing. I'm just jamming. And next thing you know, as I'm trying to back up from these guys, the woman, the mom, she punched me in the face. Like, she hit me because she saw that I wasn't going to hit her, nor hit any of her sons first. I was waiting for them. If it was one of them that hit me first, in that moment, things would have went left. But none of the boys touched me. The woman hit me, and I did not react. I felt the hit, and I was like, oh, wow. She trying to provoke me. She trying to get me locked up right across from the police precinct. This is where it gets interesting, right? So after she hits me and I take the hit, I'm like, okay, cool. They walk off. They walked off. I'm like, bro, I ain't did nothing to nobody. I ain't got nowhere to run. I ain't got nowhere to nothing. Listen. We just finna go about our business. So that situation kind of evaporated, and they walked, they left, and we went about our way to the beach, to ground, our feet in the sand, in the water, in the salt water. And as we talked for about 30 minutes, when we got done, we left, and I was about to head back to the room where I was staying with a lady called Luna that I had met for about a month, that I was spending a lot of time around. Like a grown lady. She was kind of disabled. She was cool, she was nice, but in a lot of ways also she was very narcissistic. She had narcissistic ways, like it seemed like she wanted to control me in a lot of ways, but I didn't. And it almost seemed like she came into my life to be like a manager. Like, she wanted to manage my career, but she didn't have the right approach, and she didn't even know how to really like truly talk me into being a manager for my career. But as me and my friend left the beach, as we're walking back, as we're getting closer to the police precinct on that strip, the two boys who came and rescued their mom and daughter came back with their father. So now it was 3 guys. And it was maybe like 1 in the morning. Like, as I'm walking, just something told me to just turn around and look behind me. And as I looked behind me, I see 3 guys, they walking, trying to run up on us. So I did not run away from the situation. I'm like, why are these guys what are they trying to do? So as they come up, I didn't back up. And the next thing you know, I threw my foot in there, kicked the first nigga down to the ground, and tried to hit another one with another kick.
that one kind of missed, and then all three of them just jumped on me. My friend, he there while they jumping on me. He didn't really know what to do yet, but then he tried to fight them off. He fought somebody off that took him over there and helped them. And eventually the fight happened. A lot happened. A lot of people drove by. They didn't come. They didn't try to stop the fight. Nobody tried to stop the fight. Basically, niggas were trying to take me out. Niggas were trying to really take me out. Like, they taught that those three guys really could handle me, you know? But it didn't work. I went to the hospital, did not even get care. My face, bloody, eyes, swollen, body, sore, head, banging. No care whatsoever. They barely even wiped the blood off my face. You know, and that goes to show you how tricky this world is. Like, what happened to me happened right in front of the police precinct. And for about 20 minutes, no police was there. Not one official authority was there to stop what happened. So which means that they had a part to play in what happened. They were watching why it happened. And that led me to losing all my respect for the police. It led me to losing my respect for the police, but to respect myself enough not to even interact with them. Because if the same was to be done to them, would I watch? Probably not. Having the authority they have, if I saw them in that position, would I watch? Probably not. But all of it was wise to, I guess, to see my resilience and how strong I said I was. You know, after that moment, a lot of people started respecting me because it's like not too many people could take those kind of hits to the chin and to walk as if it didn't even happen. You know, my friend, he sought to take it to court, do a lot of things. I tried to help him get footage of what happened. The day I tried to do it, these people try to call the police on me for coming to search footage of me being assaulted. So I decided, okay, if that's how you want to do it, I'm going to let God handle this. You know, like, I'm going to let God handle this, you know. The whole time I'm getting jumped on top of an injury that I already gained from working at a job at the Cheesecake Factory, and I'm waiting for my claim to be approved to get paid. And the whole time I'm getting jumped and things are worsening, you know. So like, I just found a way to keep making the best out of my life. You know, I started to realize how everybody in that city was aware of me. Most people knew me. Most people knew me in Hawaii. And almost everywhere I go now today, still people know me because there's this energy that lives in us and each and every one of us, right? That's very conscious and aware of me now because of how much it's tried to hurt me and it has failed. And because of how much it became aware of me, I had to become aware of God's energy within me also, which is the power to create, the power to make things move, to shape things in the way you want them to be shaped, you know. And I was able to gain most of this power by living in truth. You don't gain God's power and to be able to use it without having to face repercussions if you're living in lies. Like, there's a lot of power that also comes in lies. Everything has power. Is either the power to destroy or the power to create. The power that destroys will not lead you to create. If you're using your power for destruction, eventually you're going to self-destruct.
You know, so I found that power within me to destroy, but I decided to use it to create, even through all of my pain and suffering and trauma. I gained the power that would allow me to make the people who have made me suffer even worse. But I chose the opposite. I chose to let them go. I chose to let them be. I chose to pray for them, so that what they have done unto me, I would not do unto them. I don't know who's going to come into their life and do it to them, but one way or the other, that energy has to find its sender. But as for me, I refused to be the one to initiate revenge onto other people because of what I think they've done to me. Like I really just got to a point where I started to detach from whatever it is that I think I know they've done to me, whether it's true or not. I would just rather not live within that reality, because that pushes me to seeking to do things against myself to try to hurt them back. And the truth is, they're already hurting enough just by me not wanting to hurt them back. You know, and as I lived out this journey, you know, in Hawaii without anyone close, this girl was the only one who remained in my life, but mainly sexually. And we would probably catch up on a few things, but mainly the reason why we would come together was to have sex. And at some point I received the abundance that would help her get a place, but then she just was not aligning. I was trying to buy us a car and leave it in her charge so I could keep traveling and doing more things. It's just like this girl just she didn't want what I wanted, because she wanted me to be just for her. She wanted me to be hers, like a toy. I'm not your property. I'm no one's property. She wanted me to be her property. And that just did not work for me. You know, eventually I got enough money that led me to traveling from Hawaii. I went to New York and stayed there for a month. But my plan was to come back to Hawaii anyway. But the truth is, if God gave me the abundance not to look back on what I had going on in Hawaii, I would not have went back. But I went back after a month of really, really staying away from this girl. I went back and we slept with each other again for the last time. This was in November of 2024. And after that time, I have not slept with not one woman again. Because what I experienced after interchanging souls with that girl in November is something I can't even describe. But what I can say is that it almost led me to wanting to take somebody's life physically. And I gambled my last to walk away from that. I gambled my last to walk away from a place in heart, in mind, in soul, in spirit, and body that craved to take life just so the pain that I felt could stop. But then taking life was not gonna stop that pain. It was only gonna make it worse, because now the life that I took, that energy would seek me. But even without me trying to take a life, those energies still sought me as I left Hawaii. And I decided to come back to Atlanta, Georgia, to reconnect with my family, mainly because I felt like there were parts that I played that weren't genuine, or just how I did it wasn't the best, you know. And so I came back to reconnect with my family, mainly to see my mother, who I hadn't seen in 8 years. But things were just different with her.
No, they seem to be already living their lives where they're happy with themselves, and they don't need a man who thinks people should be there for him to come into their lives. And I'm gonna say I wish I knew that, but I do know that now. So now I'm keeping my distance from them completely. And for the rest of my life, I just might never get to see these people again. But the last and only person that I'm seeking to see is my father. And I only got 3 words I want to say to him. I love you. I'm not perfect. And I wish you the best. There's more to the story of what happened to me in Hawaii, but this is a pretty good summary through which I could break down more of what happened in more videos to come. If you listen this far, thank you. I pray that if you've been through similar situations, that you find God within, that you find your source to guide you, to strengthen you, and to help you overcome your own challenges. For it's not easy being a being of truth in a world full of lies. It's almost like the whole world is against you, but the whole world is not against you. There are people who are for you. You just have to find them. And often it takes time because you have to let go of a belief system that you have held onto for a very long time that makes you think you need to be part of certain circles just to feel validated, when the true validation comes from within. It comes from an unconditional source of love that exists within the vast majority of what exists on this earth, under the sun, in the galaxies and in the universe. So all I can say to you out of everything I've said is choose to be true to yourself. Choose to live our life in the most truthful ways to you. And don't count on man, or don't depend on man to trust in yourself. Trusting in yourself has nothing to do with anything external of you. It's solely an energy that you embody in your core, because you know that you're trying to live your life in the most honest way, not to hurt yourself and to hurt other people. Like, you're really living within the analogy of, I don't want to do unto others what I don't want done to me, and I don't want done to me what I'm not doing unto other people. And the more you start to live like that, the more you start to really realize people's energy. You're able to discern more and not fall victim of manipulation and people wanting to take advantage of you. It's hard to remain in solitude, but it's a must. You gotta bear. That's just what life is, man. And no matter what you encounter, no matter how you struggle in life, always remember that your source doesn't want to see you down. Your source, your creator, wants to see you experience your life in the best way possible. And a lot of people have found ways to hijack our souls, but slowly and surely we're regaining parts of ourselves that we have lost to this world without even playing at its game. Nevertheless, I love you, but God, our creator, loves you more. And I pray that whatever you do today, as you watch this video or after you watch this video, that it prospers, that your mind be enlightened with love and truth, and that God be more of you, that you allow God to be more of you. 333.